We got a potentially blue wave hitting Texas. Hopefully we get to see send Ted Cruz back to Cancun and take a permanent vacation.
Yeah. Good luck with that.
We know that's what he likes to do, at least like when the storm is coming. So hopefully
Cancun Cruz.
Good old Rafael Cancun Cruz.
Oh God.
All right. All right. Today though, we're gonna bring it back and talk about something that Dale mentioned earlier, and that's 280E and the IRS tax code for cannabis businesses. A national accountants group urges the IRS and Treasury to update marijuana tax guidance ahead of federal scheduling. A National Association of Accountants is asking the Treasury Department and the IRS to issue updated guidance on federal tax policy for marijuana businesses as the administration's rescheduling proposal moves through the process. The American Institute of CPAs, or AICPA, is also requesting that federal financial agencies give cannabis companies a chance to correct tax deduction claims that they've made in anticipation of potential federal rescheduling decision, after IRS notified stakeholders that it intends to recoup any payouts that might have been made prior to the government potentially finalizing a rule to move marijuana from Schedule 1 to Schedule 3 of the Controlled Substances Act. In a letter sent to Janet Yellen, the Treasury Secretary, and the IRS Commissioner Daniel Werfel on Monday, AICPA said it was important to take steps to clarify the rules, particularly as it concerns the IRS code known as 280E that precludes marijuana businesses from taking federal tax deductions as long as it remains a Schedule 1 drug. If cannabis is reclassified to Schedule 3, as the Justice Department formally proposed in May following a scientific review by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, or HHS, that would make marijuana companies eligible for federal tax deductions, but certain businesses have preemptively claimed deductions as the scheduling process has unfolded. Last month, an IRS official clarified that it will continue to seek tax payments from those firms if they claim the deductions before the rescheduling is codified. Given the continued confusion within the sector, the AICPA offered the federal agencies recommendations that they hope will serve as, quote, a starting point for issuing guidance to cannabis businesses and tax practitioners as soon as possible in anticipation of potential rescheduling of marijuana as a controlled substances. We look forward to working with you on these issues and others to ensure that taxpayers are encouraged to comply with the law and that tax professionals are able to provide advice and services to cannabis businesses, end quote. The org's first recommendation is for the Treasury and IRS to issue guidance providing that marijuana businesses are able to take tax deductions for the full tax year if rescheduling is implemented at any point in the year. If there's a mid-year policy change without such guidance, that could create artificial behaviors, produce uncertainty and unnecessary risk, and have a myriad of tax accounting consequences. Guidance should also be issued to clarify the tax treatment of issues arising from no longer being subject to Section 280E, including accounting year changes, partnership basis, and depreciation. It said, for example, cannabis companies should be advised on how startup expenditures that were made before they open their doors will be treated upon potential rescheduling determination. The IICPA also recommended that agencies should provide guidance stipulating that if marijuana is rescheduled, all state licensed businesses will be treated equally under the tax code, even if the specific state laws they operate under are different. Finally, the AICPA and Treasury and IRS AICPA said that the Treasury and IRS should offer, quote, a voluntary disclosure program, end quote, for businesses that preemptively claim tax deductions prior to rescheduling being finalized, giving them a chance to fix their claims so as not to be penalized under 280E. You can read more about the letter from the AICPA to the Treasury Department and the IRS on the website. And this article was originally put out by Marijuana Moment. I think it's just one important thing to note here, especially with regard to 280E, is that this was never intended to be applied to cannabis businesses. It was written in the 80s because there was a cocaine and methamphetamine trafficker who started opening LLCs and filing taxes and writing deductions. So this was initially written to stop actual narcotics traffickers from claiming tax deductions and being prosecuted by the IRS. So I'm glad to see that we have the AICPA stepping up now and urging the federal regulators that they need to change this. And let's kick it back to the rest of the team. This is Sohum with High at 9 News reporting from the ATX.
Austin.
I'm going to steal Dale's moment and say they're about to get fucking spanked. I've watched operators already be like, well, we're not going to file because 280 is going to change. What if it doesn't? What the fuck if it doesn't? What if the reschedule doesn't happen?
288.
What about when it fails? Like, This is not the agency you really want to play with. This is how they got Capone. They buried him with tax paperwork. Do not play with them, people. Please. It also makes my head hurt.
Hey, Omar, we're 8 years strong on safe banking about to pass.
8 years. Safe banking isn't gonna erase 280E either. But it's a whole lot closer.
I can tell you, I work very closely with a cannabis-specific accountant. My clients go there first. I take their advice. They have insurance. They're very conservative. They don't take deductions unless they think they can go into court and they can back them up. And if you are not doing something like that, then there's a cliff ahead of you, and you better have your parachute on because you're going over it soon.
Yeah, there's a lot of like MSOs, multi-state operators, that have gone with the strategy that 280E is going to be repealed retroactively, and they don't need to be paying taxes, and they're asking for tax refunds. And I think this American Institute of CPAs is trying to see like, well, is this just all smoke or is this for real? And so this is, I think, meant to elicit a response. But I think the response, because we've already saw it when the Congressional Research Service looked into this issue, and it said, yes, descheduling or rescheduling is going to bring relief the second that the official notice is published in the register, and not until then. So I don't think there's going to be any retroactive tax relief without federal legislation granting that retroactive tax relief. And looking at the track record of bringing successful federal legislation over the finish line, I wouldn't be holding my breath for retroactive tax relief federal legislation.
And on top of that, let's be real. It's the federal government and the IRS. This is their tax money, and this is the way regulators have always viewed our industry is as a cash cow for generating taxes for them.
That's true.
In what world do people live in where they think the IRS and the federal government are going to voluntarily say, here's a retroactive tax refund or a tax credit? Like, that is never going to happen. That is absolutely never going to happen.
Especially after this government gave so much of our money away.
I think it could happen. I don't think it's impossible, but in our current, system with guardrails, unlikely.
I'm still waiting on my damn student loans to be refunded. So I mean,
that ain't coming either. That got rejected.
Shit.
I wonder why. Who put back on that, Jason?
Yeah, who's trying to put the kibosh on student loan relief?
I'm not for that, so I don't understand why you guys are acting like it's a bad thing. I think it's a great thing.
You heard that?
Student loan relief is great. I think nobody should have to take out student loans. We should have free education like Europe.
I totally agree with that, Omar, but that's not the case on where we live.
Probably should allow 19-year-old children to take out tens of thousands of dollars of debt. Like that's just
I think that's
the federal
too.
government should not be charging interest to young people to go to school. At the very least, it should be zero.
I agree with that.
It's dischargeable in bankruptcy. Why not? Why can't we start over?
Yeah, right.
Tax debt isn't dischargeable in bankruptcy either.
Colleges just jack up their tuition to the point where you can't afford it without taking these loans. It's just it's a circle jerk that nobody wants to fix, and these kids are left in the middle. And my advice: go learn to be a welder. Fuck being a CPA.
If you'd like to contribute to my student loan debt, please throw a super chat in there.
Republicans got great. They got a great game plan to help people out with these student loans with these black women.
Yeah, I was about to say, how does this affect women of color?
Somebody forgive a black woman's student loan debt. Help me.
Yeah.
Oh boy,
Jason.
Oh, fucking tripping.
Oh, the Woke Act.
Yeah, right.
Sponsored by
Rico. Why don't you introduce Jenny Beth since she has so much debt? You know what I'm saying? Maybe she can.
I already did. I'm gonna introduce
my story. You're really not doing good today. Did you have a stroke this morning?